Yo, what is going on, guys? It's Cbrav. Welcome to another MLB The Show video. In this one, I'm going to be doing something highly requested from you guys, which is going over all the changes that I would like to see in MLB The Show 20 and the MLB The Show franchise in general moving forward into the future. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe for more MLB 20 content. Drop a like on the video for me as well. It helps out immensely with the algorithm and the search terms with YouTube. And leave a comment with some of your own changes that you would like to see in MLB The Show 20. So this one was highly requested from you guys. Like I said, I've got quite a bit of ideas, quite a few ideas, so this is going to be a little bit of a long one. That's kind of just how it goes with me, but I think you guys are going to enjoy it. So starting off with two ideas that I had starting earlier in the year that SDS has actually already put into MLB The Show 20. So the first one of these is improved difficulty in using button accuracy. One of the things I said I would like to see, but I didn't actually think they would do it, is to make button accuracy harder, because the way button accuracy operates in the field in MLB 19, it's pretty much impossible to mess it up if you've been playing the game a lot at a highly competitive level. It was just simply too easy to make zero errors all the time. And so what they're doing this year is they're speeding up the meter, they're making the green zone smaller for people with poor fielding stats. Overall, great changes to the competitive landscape, I think. Adding more skill gap to fielding, which has kind of just been a mindless thing for most players. So I think that's a really good change. The other one that I said I would like to see, which I'm surprised they did as well, in one of my subscriber Q&As, someone asked me what I would like to see changed for MLB 20 like 6 months ago, and I said they needed to do something with good squared up, because people don't want to see the best possible feedback, which this year was good squared up, and then make an out for it. So I said they either needed to make it so good squared up was a hit every single time, or they needed to get rid of the good squared up feedback, get rid of the squared up contact result, so people don't feel anger when they square something up and make an out. So their solution to this was to add perfect, which I think is an amazing change and was pretty much what I was talking about with making good squared up pretty much a guaranteed hit. So now I think they showed from the beta like perfect swings, which is perfect contact, perfect timing. Had something like an 867 batting average in the beta, so that's pretty cool. Definitely something that's improving the game and something that I talked about before. So those are the two things that I had talked about before that they have already put into MLB 20, which is pretty awesome. Definitely not taking credit for that at all. It's pure coincidence, but I figured I should get them out of the way in the beginning. So let's move on to the things that I would like to see changed that haven't been announced or put into the game yet. So there's a couple categories here. We're going to go quality of life improvements, then we're going to go some stuff that can be fixed in the coming year, and then we're going to go some longer term game improvements for more so when the game goes to multi-platform. So starting off with quality of life, one thing I would like to see is to limit the number of leads or the number of pickoffs when a runner is on first base, I guess second base too. This is super annoying if both players are stubborn, and so I feel like SDS just needs to pick one. Either the base runner gets the advantage or the pitcher gets the advantage. At some point, you either have to put a cap on how often you can take a lead or how often you can do a pickoff move, because as it stands right now, with a runner with good stealing stats, you can take a one-step lead every single time, and the pitcher can counter with a pickoff every single time, and this cycle can go endlessly until one person gives up the mental fortitude and just says F it and either throws the pitch or stops taking a lead. So I think SDS can and should fix this very easily. Just make it so you can only take a lead 3 times before you can't anymore, or make it so you can only throw 3 pickoffs to first base or second base or whatever before you can't pick off anymore. And then that would also actually create sort of a skill gap, which would be pretty cool, because if you know your opponent's out of pickoffs, you could take a huge lead, and you would have to be pretty experienced in the game to know the amount of pickoffs. So I think actually limiting pickoffs would be best for the game in general. So would like to see that. Would also like to see a limit on R2 usage, get more of the trolling out of the game. You don't really need to see R2 aside from like before the first pitch of an at-bat is thrown, because usually the point of R2 is to kind of pick up on sequencing, how they pitched you last time. And so I would like to see R2 limited to only before the first pitch of an at-bat. The ability to hold R2 every single pitch is really annoying, and people will do it online to troll, so I'd like to see them limit that as well. Another quality of life change that I would like to see, this one, people have been clamoring for this one for years, and that's the ability to save event lineups in between event entries. As it stands right now, you have to make an entirely new lineup, and it resets with the default lineup every single time you try to make a new event entry, and that is super annoying. They added multiple lineups last year, so I don't put it past them to be able to do this, but this has to be on the top of the list of quality of life improvements. Having to make or redo your lineup every single event entry is super annoying and completely unnecessary. What else? Quality of life changes. Get rid of the glitch where relievers come into the game tired and with low confidence. The only way I've found to prevent this is to do a mound visit before you change your pitchers. And I'm still to this day not really sure what causes it. So if you don't know, there's a glitch where sometimes if you put a reliever in without mound visiting first, he'll come in with lower energy and lower confidence than if he was rested. Even if he had 100% energy in the bullpen, if it glitched out, he would come in with about 80% energy and his confidence would be really low. So would like to see that removed. Hopefully it is. Also, for variety, something I would like to see changed is to make individual event entry win requirements different for different events. So like they kind of just followed the BR reward structure in events, since events have become a thing since MLB 17. I think it would be cool to like vary it up. So if you have 6-inning games or 9-inning games or longer games, make the entries shorter. They do this with cumulative wins, but not with per entry wins. So I think it would be cool to have like a reward structure of 2, 4, 6, 8 instead of 3, 6, 9, 12, or just make the last reward for individual entries like 5 if they're 9-inning games or something like that. That would be pretty cool. Just adds more variety to events, which I think is good. And then the last quality of life improvement I would like to see is adding a note or some kind of text on the non-auctionable cards in the game as to where they come from or how you can obtain them. So as of right now, cards that are not obtainable through the marketplace, so this includes collection rewards, moments rewards, etc. All it says when you try to click on them is this is not available on the marketplace. I think it would be really cool for each of these cards if there was a little note that would tell you how to get the card, given that it's not available on the marketplace. So for like, just off the top of my head, the 91 Kenny Lofton this year, if you were just browsing the Indians flashbacks and you saw 91 Kenny Lofton, and you clicked on him, it would say like complete the Indians Live Series collection to receive this card or something like that. I think that would be a wonderful change, especially for a lot of the casual players who will see their favorite player from real life and have to Google where do they come from instead of it just being right in the game. So now let's move on to some gameplay stuff that I believe could be fixed for the coming year if they were to try. Granted, I know they're really late in the development cycle, but I think this stuff could still be implemented this year. But this is just stuff I would like to see. It's more short-term stuff. Obviously, a big one that a lot of people have talked about is pitcher input. This one's pretty obvious. In MLB 19, oftentimes you would get good input, whether it be with meter or analog pitching, and your pitch would still not really be exactly where you wanted it to go. The classic example is hanging changeups and hanging curveballs. When they're aimed to be below the zone and you hit perfect on analog and it still hangs to the middle of the zone for some reason. Pitcher input needs to be better. If you hit the analog or the meter perfectly, your pitch should go pretty much exactly where you told it to, unless your pitcher has insanely low like control ratings or something. Someone like Clayton Kershaw from this year's game should be hitting his spot every time if you hit the meter perfectly, and that just wasn't the case. So I think pitcher input can be approved for next year. One little thing I'd like to see with base running, actually two things with base running. leaning when you're stealing bases. So if you hold L1, you can lean, which is supposed to give you a chance to get a better jump. I would like to see them make this more static, and therefore it could become more relevant in competitive play, again creating skill gaps. I'm all for that kind of stuff. I think they should make it so if you lean, so if you tell your runner on first to steal and you hold L1, if they don't pick off, you should be guaranteed a good jump, and if you're leaning and they do pick off, you should be picked off every time. So just more ideas to add a skill gap to the game. You can get a huge jump if your opponent's not paying attention, but it's high risk, high reward. And if your opponent is paying attention and assumes that you're leaning, you can run a high risk of getting picked off. So I think that would be a cool addition to kind of base stealing in general. Some sort of base running IQ stat would be amazing as well, but that's more of a long-term thing. I can almost guarantee that's not going to be a thing this year. But something like people who are good at base running in real life get like better or worse jumps on balls that are hitting the gap, or balls where you can't really tell off the bat if they're going to get caught or if they're going to hit the wall. So you could give people like high base running IQ stats, I guess, and then they would get better jumps on iffy plays in the outfield, or like line drives in the infield. Maybe if they know it's going to get by the guy, they take off right away, but someone with poor base running IQ will kind of just stand there and maybe get thrown out at second on a force play or something. Would love to see that in the future. I also believe there should be a smaller window of opportunity of when you can change like your intended base for your base runner without being penalized. So right now, unless they're pretty much standing on top of the base, you can change the base that you're sending them to last minute and they won't lose any speed and they'll still round the base perfectly. I think they can tweak this a little bit. Make it so you have to put in your input earlier or your base runner will kind of freak out. This does happen in MLB 19, but I'm saying that the window for which it happens should be greater. So like if a guy is 3 steps from second base and you have told him to go to second base the whole time and then you switch it to third base at the last minute, he should be like stutter stepping around second base. He shouldn't be rounding perfectly. And you could make this cutoff something like 3/4 of the way down the base path. Maybe even earlier than that, because right now it's way too easy to just like change your base last minute in base running. Another example would be like if you're gonna send a guy home right now and then you decide to send him back to third base, it's really easy. He only like gets a couple steps past third and then goes back. I think there should be a larger punish for this. I think you should have to make up your mind of home or third like before you even get to third base. And if you choose home and you change your mind last minute, I think there should be a huge delay and a large chance of getting backpicked at third. So that's just my opinion. A little too easy to change your mind on the base paths this year. I would like to see them make it a little harder. Another gameplay change that I think would be pretty cool is if they added the ability to use an opener in MLB The Show 19. So in real life baseball, openers have become more and more of a thing where a relief pitcher is starting the game. I think this would be a cool addition to MLB The Show. Obviously, you'd have to put some kind of cap on it to alleviate players abusing this option, but I have some ideas for this. So one of them is to make the opener or make the reliever who opens lose stamina twice as fast when they're opening, and additionally, they must be removed after the first inning and they must pitch the entire first inning. So if you use the opener, you can't make any pitching changes until the first inning is over. Additionally, your reliever is going to lose stamina twice as fast. And then afterwards, you can either choose to do a full bullpen game, or you can choose to have your pre-designated starting pitcher come in the second inning. And then given that bullpen energy still functions game to game in the same way, your opener would be insanely tired going into the next game because he lost energy twice as fast. So that's just like a baseline idea of opener in MLB The Show, but I think it would be really cool, and I think those ideas would kind of help players have to make a choice. Maybe this is something you try if you're one game away from World Series or something. Cool idea, but punished if done incorrectly is kind of the idea I'm going for there. And then last thing for things that can be fixed for this coming year, this is actually a big one for me. I think this is a bigger deal than people are making it out to be, and that is the online leaderboard rating systems in Diamond Dynasty. So as it stands right now, the rating systems, especially lifetime ratings, are really messed up compared to how good people actually are. It's worse in lifetime than season to season, but still nobody really knows how they work. Lifetime rankings in particular heavily favor people who have played a ton of games with a lower win percentage over people who have played a lower amount of games with a higher win percentage, and I think this is a little messed up. Lifetime ratings in general just function very poorly. Like I said, nobody really knows even how they work right now. So I have a simple solution to this that I would like to see. It'd be pretty easy to implement. I think they should change lifetime rating to just the cumulative additive points of all of your seasons put together. So if you finish at 921 rating in the first season and 879 rating in the second season, then your lifetime rating should be, quick maths, 1600, I think is what that would come out to, 1700, something like that. Regardless, the two ratings of each individual season added up, and therefore the people that are finishing highest in each individual season will have the highest numbers added up, and then we'll finish at higher lifetime rankings in Diamond Dynasty. I think that's the best way you can do it. It doesn't solve a problem that's still occurring right now, which is if you take a season off, you're pretty much excluded from the top of the leaderboard, even if your win-loss is really good. My new system would also have that problem, so it's something to look into to try and fix, but it's still the same the way it is now anyway. So if you take a whole season off, if you don't play, then you drop in lifetime rating a lot. So like, I would consistently be on the first page of the leaderboards, but even if I just didn't play ranked seasons on that account for the first 2 weeks, I would drop in lifetime ranking to like the third page until I got to World Series, upon which I would be back on the front page. So again, not really sure how it works, but definitely could be improved, and my idea is kind of just like a baseline. I don't think it's perfect, but just something that I thought of. And then finally, let's dive into some more long-term game improvements. These are things that I would like to see added to Diamond Dynasty in the long term. There's no way they could do these this year, but moving forward, MLB 21 and onward, I would like to see some of this. So this first one is not an original idea by any means. I think we need some kind of weekend league or some form of competition higher than ranked seasons. I also think the addition of like a custom stadium with very static dimensions and indoors, so no wind, and very basic wall dimensions and stuff like that. I think there should be a competitive stadium with simplistic dimensions that should be used in Battle Royale and this Weekend League mode if they decide to go for it. It'd be super easy to make a stadium, have it so these competitive games are only played at that stadium, and then if you make the stadium usable in Diamond Dynasty as well, then the community or esports tournaments can use this stadium as well. So I think that would be super cool. Second thing, I think they can make improvements to quirks. I don't want them to be like chemistries in Madden or anything like that, but I think they could get a little more specific with it by looking at career stats and where a player excelled in specific niche situations, especially with signature series cards seeming like they're going to be around for a long time. This would be super cool to add quirks to signature series cards of what players did best over the course of their career. So something like if a player was really good at fouling pitches off, maybe someone like Ichiro, someone like Omar Vizquel, give them a quirk where they foul more pitches off with 2 strikes. I know this quirk kind of already exists, but it's not active on Flashback Legend signature series cards, I don't believe, as it stands. There's also a quirk you could add if someone like performs super well in a certain count in their career, so like a 2-1 count. You could give them a bigger PCI, something like that. I'm going to elaborate on this idea further, so I'm kind of trying to stay away from it with quirks, but you guys get the idea. You could do this even with base stealing, so like if Ricky Henderson had like a 90+% steal success rate in like a 2-0 count, then you would make it so he has improved base stealing in 2-0 counts, and this would once again add a lot of skill cap, because if the pitcher knows that you have this quirk, he would be more weary of you stealing in 2-0 counts, and the possibilities are endless. I think they can create a lot of really cool things with quirks on Signature Series cards. So would take a lot of work, would take a lot of diving into players' careers in real life. I'm sure implementation would be hard, but it would be something that would be insanely awesome to add to Diamond Dynasty. And the final long-term game improvement that I would like to see, this is very complex and something that I've thought about a lot. I'm still right now not sure how they could implement it successfully, but this is something that I've thought of for a while, and that's dynamic PCI changes during the at-bat. So I think they can make it super cool and like more difficult to hit or easier to hit based on what count you're in. So I think the batter PCI should shrink if you're behind in the count and should grow if you're ahead in the count, and this would kind of accentuate what happens in real life when hitters are in hitters counts. They perform better, and this is still the case in the game right now, even with stock PCI size, because when you're ahead in the count you're more likely to get a good pitch to hit. But I think they could expand on this by shrinking or raising the PCI based on how the at-bat is going for each side. So if you're in an 0-2 count, your PCI would be tiny, especially if you're using a guy with low contact and stuff like that. I think that would be a really cool addition. Not sure how they'd implement it. There's also a meta problem that could arise from this, being that pitchers would just throw pitches right down the middle for the first pitch of every at-bat, because they know if they get ahead in the count, then they will have a smaller PCI for their opponent, and then this could be countered by people just swinging at the first pitch every single at-bat, and this could really snowball into pitchers throwing complete games and only throwing like 50 pitches for the whole game. So my idea is not perfect by any means right now, but if they could implement something to where the PCI dynamically shifts based on the game situation, besides just like the clutch rating they have right now, which hardly does anything, I think that would make this game incredibly dynamic and alive, especially in individual games and individual situations. So that's my biggest idea. No idea how they should do it or how they can do it, but I think it would be really cool. So I hope y'all enjoyed this video. If you made it this far, you are the real one, like always. Drop a like I said, it helps me out a ton if you haven't already. Yeah, thanks for sticking with me. Let me know what you think of some of my ideas down in the comments below. I love all of you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.